You awaken to the sound of iron latches closing. Again, always the latches first. Your hands are raw from scrubbing floors slick with the sweat of men you'll never look in the eyes. You were once a baker's daughter, or so you tell yourself. It helps to pretend. Now, you're a line in a ledger, a body with a price. Living in the heart of a district the town charters but never names aloud. Here, in the brothel quarter behind the fish market, law and filth share the same gutter. The wooden sign swinging. Above the door reads the hen house, a joke, cruel and cackling. You are one of the hens, bought and branded. No one sees the bruise on your hip, or the chipped tooth, or the blood you hide in your sheets. They see the ribboned hair, the forced smile, and the painted lips, a city's twisted form of order. Before we begin tonight's journey, tell me, where are you listening from? What city, what village, what quiet little place are you lying in right now, and what time is it there? Is it midnight? Or are you listening in the soft glow of early morning, hoping the world stays quiet a little longer? If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. We're building a world hereof. Forgotten stories, hidden voices, and echoes that still whisper through time. I'd love for you to be part of it. Now, let me take you back outside. The bells ring for morning mass. Inside, the madam counts the coins from last night. Her name is Bertha. Once a working girl like you. Now she wears furs bought with your bones. She walks past your cot, never looking down, only muttering, 12 this week. City Watch wants the head count before tax day. You nod, not because you agree, but because it's safer. In this place, agreeing keeps you alive. The brothel is legal, sanctioned by the town council, taxed monthly, inspected by men who turn their heads when the screams grow too loud. They say it's better this way. Better regulated than rogue, they claim. Safer for the girls. But you know the truth. Safety is a word sold to men with clean hands. Here, safety means a door that locks only from the outside and a bucket that's never quite emptied. You are not safe. You are managed. Twice a month, the inspector comes. Not a priest, worse, a clerk. Thin lips, ink-stained fingers, eyes like stale wine. He checks your arms for disease, your teeth for rot, your records for compliance. He never asks your name, just your number. Your girl, 7 of room 3. You stopped correcting him a year ago. Looks healthy, he mumbles. Marking the parchment, she lasts another quarter, as if you were a barrel of salted meat. You used to cry after his visits. Now, you scrape your nails across the wall and whisper the names of the girls who didn't last. Marie, who bled out after the tanner cracked her ribs. Bridget, who vanished after refusing the priest. No inquiry, no funerals, just silence. Their names don't appear in the books. You write them anyway, behind a loose brick near the stove, in charcoal, like a secret hymn. The laws say you cannot leave after sundown. Not unless you're accompanied by a guard, or going to entertain a guest on official contract. The penalty for breaking curfew is a night in the stocks, naked, sometimes, for display, too. Discourage the others, they say. But you know the real reason. Public shame is cheaper than a noose, and just as effective. Once, you snuck out to find a healer for a girl whose belly wouldn't stop swelling. You returned before midnight, thinking you'd gone unnoticed. The next day, Bertha cut your hair off in front of the others and locked you in the cellar for 2 nights. You still feel the damp in your bones. The rats didn't bite, they watched like judges. That was the first time you thought of killing someone. The thought hasn't left since. You begin to notice things, patterns. How the tax collector always comes on the last Thursday before market week, when the streets are thick with foreigners. How the guards turn their backs when the noble sons arrive. In groups, how Bertha pays an extra coin to the priest during Lent for his silence. You realize the brothel is not just a den of flesh, it's a spoke in the wheel of the town's economy. Each girl is a transaction, each bruise an invoice, each scream a tithe. The law protects the house, not the people in it. You're told to be grateful, Better a roof than a ditch, they say. But you know the truth. The ditch is just where they dump the girls who stop bringing in coin. You've seen the carts. You've smelled the lime. One day, a girl arrives. Young, too young. Pale eyes, dirt in her hair, shaking hands. She doesn't speak for 2 days. You find her curled beneath the cot, flinching when the door creaks. You bring her bread. She doesn't eat it, only watches you like an animal. When she finally speaks, it's to say her name, Ilsa. That night, you hear her sobbing. You press your ear to the wall. It's not fear, it's grief. Later, Bertha tells the girls, she's ours now, caught stealing turnips. The bailiff offered her a choice, the cage or the house. You look at Ilsa's bruised wrists, the tear on her sleeve. That wasn't a choice, it was a sentence. And the brothel is the jail with nicer wallpaper. Weeks pass, Ilsa stops shaking. She paints her lips like the rest of you. She learns the faces of the men who tip and the ones who slap. She learns not to cry, at least not where Bertha can hear. You teach her how to pack bruises with lamb's fat, how to swallow the bitterness without tasting it. You've become something like a sister to her, or maybe a ghost guide. She asks you why you stay. You don't answer, because there's nowhere else to go. Because you owe Bertha for the debt she invented. Because you're too tired to imagine, escape. You don't say any of that. Instead, you pull aside the brick and show her the names. She touches them like they're sacred. Did they ever get out? She whispers, one did. You lie. Your monthly bleeding stops. At first, you think it's the cold, or the hunger, or the long hours without sleep. But when the dizziness comes, and the bile in your throat turns sweet, you know. You tell no one, not yet. Pregnancy is dangerous here. Some girls disappear the moment their bellies show. Others are sent to the convent, but not to pray. You've seen the nuns drag them back, thin as crows, eyes hollow, walking like broken puppets. They cleanse the sin, Bertha says, but the only thing you've seen leave those halls is blood. You hide your condition as long as you can, bind your chest, loosen your belts, work the quiet hours. Each day you whisper to the child inside. You, not promises, just truths. You might not live long enough to meet them, but maybe they'll carry your name. Maybe they'll walk free. The moon grows fuller. Your stomach rounds slowly, betraying you in the mirror. You begin sewing darker dresses, layering aprons, avoiding the eyes of the house clerk who updates the ledger each week. Bertha hasn't noticed, or pretends not to. Maybe she's waiting for the right time to call in the debt you never agreed to. Pregnancy here isn't a blessing, it's a breach of contract. The men want illusions, not consequences. A girl with a belly is no longer part of the product. She becomes waste. You've seen it before. One moment, she's smiling through clenched teeth. The next, she's gone. Sent to the nuns, they say, or married to a farmer. But no letters ever come. No one ever returns. You've begun storing food under the floorboards. Dried bread, salt, a single knife wrapped in cloth. You don't know what you're preparing for yet, but you know you'll need it. Ilsa watches you differently now. She doesn't ask questions, but her eyes linger too long. You sense her worry. Growing, not pity. Something more dangerous, attachment. You've warned her not to make friends here. Names way too much, you once said. But she's young, her heart hasn't hardened the same way. One night, she sneaks into your room and lays beside you on the straw. Her voice is barely a whisper. I can help you leave. You don't answer. Not because you don't want to believe her, but because you remember what it cost the last girl who tried. Marta, who smuggled coins in her apron lining. She made it to the forest line. Her body came back in pieces, dumped outside the tannery. The watch claimed wolves, but wolves don't use rope. Still, Ilsa believes. She's gathering scraps, she says. She knows someone who can forge seals. The risk is growing teeth. The brothel is quieter now. Winter approaches. Fewer travelers, more local men. the kind who pay in copper and expect the world. Bertha's temper sharpens with the cold. Her cane finds your knees more often. You walk slower now, stiffen when you rise. The child shifts inside you like a secret trying to escape. At night, you light no candles. The dark is safer. The dreams are not. You wake often, soaked in sweat, heart hammering. In your dreams, the cradle rocks by itself. The floorboards bleed. The inspector calls your number in reverse. Sometimes you hear the nuns singing, but the lyrics twist. All sins shall be buried. All mouths shall be sealed. You've begun writing again, not names this time, but instructions, hidden behind the chimney stone. If something happens to you, someone needs to know the layout, the habits, the blind corners. Memory may be the only way anyone survives this place. Then comes inspection day. But it's not the usual clerk. This one is younger, cleaner, with boots too new for someone who walks the red streets. He doesn't ask for your number. He asks your name. You freeze. Ilsa squeezes your arm before you answer. We don't give names here, she says firmly. The man smiles, not kindly, curiously, like he's testing you. Just a formality, he replies. The council is updating its records. You know that's a lie. The council updates nothing unless it's bleeding silver. You wonder if they suspect the pregnancy, or worse, if someone talked. After he leaves, you count the hours until nightfall. You double-check your hiding places, the food, the knife, the parchment with escape routes scribbled in charcoal. It's not a plan anymore. It's a countdown. That night, Bertha calls a meeting. All the girls gather in the main hall. You sit in the back, hands hidden beneath your apron. Bertha's face is tight. The laws are changing, she announces. New quotas, new penalties. Any girl who misses 3 shifts will be fined double. Anyone caught outside without escort will be reported to the watch. She pauses, eyes scanning your faces. And anyone hiding anything will be dealt with. Personally, her cane taps the floor 3 times. That's the signal. Someone's being watched. Maybe all of you are. The house feels colder that night. Not from the weather, from the tightening grip of control. You consider running, not next week, not in spring. Now the snow is thin. The roads are quiet. You could make it to the Weavers' village by dawn if you move fast and bleed slow. But you need a partner. And you know what it means to ask for help here. Every favor has a cost. Except with Ilsa. She's already waiting when you return to your room. Her pack is ready. We go tonight, she says. There's a man with a wagon. He trades cloth. He's blind in one eye, but he owes me. You ask how. She doesn't answer. You don't press. You've both done things you don't speak of. You just nod. Then comes the noise. The door slams open. Bertha behind her, not a guard, but the young inspector from earlier. His eyes go straight to your stomach. There she is, he says, like he's found a misplaced book. Bertha looks at you with thin-lipped disdain. Lying's worse than stealing, she sneers. You'll learn that soon enough. She motions to the inspector. Take her. Ilsa steps between you and the men. No, she snaps. She's done nothing wrong. Bertha laughs not because it's funny, but because it's over. She broke contract, girl. That makes her property. The inspector reaches forward. You reach for the knife. But before you can draw it, Ilsa moves. She throws the oil lamp. The fire hits the curtains. Chaos erupts. Screams. Smoke. You don't think, you run. Ilsa grabs your arm, dragging you through the back hallway. The fire spreads fast. Someone's shouting about water. Someone else is sobbing. You push through the kitchen, kick open the door near the coal bins. Outside, snow, cold, hard air. You don't stop to look back. Not until you're deep in the alley, panting. Ilsa pulls you behind a cart. You hear no footsteps, no shouts, just the crackle of flames and the whistle of distant bells. You've escaped. For now, but you've also committed arson, assault, flight from bonded service. The law won't see desperation. It'll see disobedience. You're not a victim anymore. You're a fugitive. Ilsa knows it too. Her face is pale, but steady. He won't follow, she says. He's not brave enough. You ask what happens now. Now, she whispers. Now we vanish. And for the first time since this all began, you believe it might be possible. The road out of town is narrow, lined with frostbitten hedges and hoofprints barely softened by snow. The moon hides behind a wool-grey sky. You and Ilsa keep your heads low, cloaks pulled tight. The cloth trader waits by the willows, just as she said, a hunched man with one eye, fingers stiff from age and ash. He doesn't ask names, just nods and jerks a thumb toward the back of his wagon. You climb inside without a word. Beneath sacks of burlap and dyed cloth, it's barely warm, but the stillness feels sacred. You're not behind a locked door anymore. You're not a number in a ledger. You're just two breaths in the dark, carried by wheels over frozen dirt. It's the first time you've moved without permission in years. The baby kicks like a whisper of defiance. You press your hand to your belly and whisper back, "We're not theirs anymore." The trader leaves you at a mill town 2 days west. "Don't speak of the henhouse," he mutters, handing you a heel of bread. "They've got ears in markets, even here." He doesn't ask for coin, just leaves, gone before dawn. The town is quiet, suspicious. They don't ask where you came from, they just look at your worn boots and dirt-streaked hem and assume something sinful. You pretend to be a widow, pregnant from a merchant lost to plague. It's not the worst lie you've told. A kindly woman named Edla takes you in. She's toothless and gruff, but smells of soap and dried cherries. Used to be a laundress for the castle kitchens, she says proudly. Now I take in strays. Quiet ones. You never tell her the truth. Not all of it. But she knows enough to keep the questions shallow. She gives you a mat by the fire. You sleep without a chain on the door. Ilsa doesn't stay. She disappears before the third sunrise, leaving only a note tucked beneath your apron. "Don't. Wait for me. Keep breathing. It guts you more than you expect." Her absence is quieter than betrayal, but it stings deeper. You don't blame her. She was always a storm waiting to crack open. You just hoped to hear her voice a little longer before the silence returned. Still, you survive. You sew linens for Edla's neighbors, patch clothes, mend boots. You learn the market rhythms, when to speak, when to keep your head down. The belly grows. You stop hiding it. The town accepts you the way a cat tolerates another cat's kitten, warily but without claws. No one touches you, but no one welcomes you. Either you live in the space between suspicion and usefulness, and that, you've learned, is enough. One afternoon, 2 men in black coats come through the market square. Not watchmen, worse, scribes. They speak Latin too smoothly, wear shoes too clean for this muddy town. You feel the blood drain from your face. You know what they are. Tax recorders, the kind that track coin, bodies, and bonds. You keep your head down, pretend to haggle for onions. They don't look at you, but they look at everyone. A few villagers exchange whispers that night. "They're tightening the permits again," one says. "Looking for deserters," says another. You wrap your stomach tight that night and rehearse your widow's story again, just in case. You consider running again, but where? You've survived. The house, the brands, the fire, the cold. You're tired of running, and you're not alone anymore. The baby comes early. It happens one frozen dawn, pain like iron through your spine, blood pooling faster than you expected. Edla finds you half-conscious, dragging yourself across the floor. She doesn't scream, just spits on the hearth, rolls up her sleeves, and gets to work. It's agony, hours of agony, but not new. You've known this kind of pain. It just never had hope at the end before. The child is born breech. Idla curses the saints, mutters oaths in a dialect older than the abbey. But the child comes. A girl, quiet, too quiet. Idla slaps her once, twice, a gasp, a cry. You don't remember the rest. Just heat, salt. And Edla saying softly, strong. Lungs, that one. Like her mother. You pass out with the child against your chest, not as a sinner or a debtor or a number, but as something you thought you'd never be again. Human, the days blur into sleepless rhythms, feeding, soothing, praying she lives through the winter. You name her Alice, a name that doesn't belong to the brothel or the past, a name she can carry into whatever world you build for her. Edla teaches you old rhymes, teaches Alice how to suckle, teaches you how to endure. The town begins to soften. A baker leaves crusts by your door. A widow knits a bonnet. Someone places firewood near the fence. No words, just gestures. Quiet acknowledgements that maybe, just maybe, you're not a threat anymore. Or maybe they just see a baby, and in her, forget your sins, you take it. Survival doesn't care about the shape of mercy, only that it arrives. Then, one night, the fire sputters, Edla coughs, once, then again, harder, longer. Her hands tremble. By morning, she can't rise. The winter's too long this year, she whispers, too long for bones like mine. You bring water, herbal wraps, but nothing helps. The fever climbs. You sit by her bed, Alice in your arms. She looks at you, unfocused. You remind me of my sister, she says. Died in the convent. They said she sinned too loudly. You grip her hand. You didn't sin, you say. You saved me. She doesn't respond. Her breathing slows, stops. You bury her in the garden behind the mill, beneath a patch of frozen violets. No priest, no rites. Just you and Alice, and a whispered thank you buried in frost. Now, it's only you two. You keep sewing, keep breathing. You tell Alice stories at night, not the real ones, not yet, but soft ones. Stories of firebirds and river spirits and queens who couldn't be broken. You save the truth for later. One day she asks about the scar on your shoulder, about why you flinch when doors slam, about the tattoo near your ankle, a faint mark you scrubbed until your skin bled. One day you'll tell her, but for now, you let her sleep without history. Let her grow without the weight you carried. Let her laugh. The brothel is far behind you now, but its laws live on in every village that taxes the body, but not the soul, in every clerk who records debts, but not pain. But your daughter will be more than a ledger line. You swore it. You survived it. She will live free. Spring arrives without warning. The river thaws in a single week, turning the footpaths to thick grey mud. Birds return, chattering like merchants. Alice takes her first steps in the doorway of Edla's house, barefoot, arms outstretched like wings. You catch her just before she tumbles into the wash basin, and she laughs, truly laughs. It's a sound you haven't heard in your home since Edla died. You laugh, too. It scares you at first. For years, laughter meant punishment. It was the sound Bertha made when the laws turned crueler. But here, it's clean, untaxed, unrecorded. You whisper to Alice, remember this. Even when the world forgets, how? She clutches your finger with tiny hands, eyes wide, trusting. You don't know what town you'll be forced to flee to next. You only know one thing. Your child will not inherit the cage you escaped. Then the church bell rings twice. The entire village pauses. To bells not mass, not fire, a summons. You slip Alice into her sling and step outside. In the square, a parchment is nailed to the post near the well. The mayor reads aloud. His voice trembles. By order of the Lord's Council, he says, all undocumented residents are to report for registry within 5 days. Failure to comply will result in inspection and, if warranted, removal. A new seal gleams at the bottom, the king's sigil, not the local lords. This isn't just local tax enforcement. It's centralized. Political, a purge, masked as order. You feel your stomach drop. The laws are catching up, dressed in new robes, But just as sharp, you are no longer just a fugitive. You are undocumented. Your daughter is unregistered. And the brothel, despite everything, was legal. This life, this peace, according to the crown, it doesn't exist. You consider disappearing again. Pack what you can, fade into the forests, live among charcoal burners or river folk. But Alice is too small. Her cough hasn't gone away since the snow melted. She needs food, warmth, a roof. You can't run as fast as you used to. So you try something bolder, staying. On the third day, you visit the scribe's tent at the edge of the square. A small man with a crooked neck sits behind a desk, quill ready. Name, he asks. Agnes, you lie, widow of Faldric the clothweaver. Child's name. Alice, proof of birth. You hesitate. He glances up. You pull out the silver pin Edla once gave you, her own badge from the castle kitchens. My sponsor, you say. She passed in winter. The man stares, says nothing, then nods and records your name. You walk away unsure whether you've just survived or stepped into a new trap. That night, Alice burns with fever. Her skin flashes hot, then clammy. She won't drink water. Her cries weaken. You sit beside her through the night, cooling her with damp cloth, praying to saints you never believed. You whisper songs Edla once sang, promise stories you haven't written yet. You swear, over and over, that you'll find a way. By dawn, the fever breaks. She sleeps, limp but breathing. You don't. Your hands shake for hours. You hold her so tightly she whimpers, even in dreams. In that moment, you realize the truth. Freedom is not the end of the story. It's just the start of new kinds of fear. The kind with smaller stakes, but deeper roots. The kind that doesn't end in screams, just in slow disappearance. You survived the brothel. Now, you must survive the laws that come afterward. Quieter, polished, more dangerous. A month later, the inspectors return. Not with weapons, with ink. A young woman leads them, hair coiled in gold thread, voice crisp and trained. We're reviewing permits, she says, stopping at your home, checking for backdated records. She eyes the stone chimney, the patched windows, the child on your hip. How long have you lived here? Since Frost, you say. We registered. Last month, you hand her the parchment. Her assistant inspects the seal. You're late on your civic tithe, she notes. And there's no baptism record for the child. We don't attend services, you say. My daughter's health. The woman frowns. There's a law now. All children must be recorded by parish. It's for protection. You nearly laugh. That word again, protection. As if branding souls offers shelter. You nod instead. I'll take her next week. The woman leaves, but not before glancing once more at the silver pin on your shelf. Her stare lingers. You remember it too late. You begin hiding your papers at night. You bury Edla's badge beneath the floor, alongside the last scraps of coin. You memorize the inspector's routes, the names they check off in the square. One by one, the poor vanish. A family from the hills. A mother and 2 sons from the Wool Lane. All relocated for irregular status. You ask no questions. You answer even fewer. But the dread creeps in like rot under a doorframe. You know what's coming. The system isn't interested in justice. It needs efficiency, order, clean ledgers. And people like you, invisible, indebted, defiant, are smudges to be wiped away. Then one morning, you find the door ajar. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. Just the child's doll turned upside down, and the jar of stored lentils missing. You step outside, heart in your throat. The baker watches you with pity. The scribe avoids your gaze. Someone came into your home quietly, officially. A warning, you packed that night. No speech, no farewell. Just cloth, bread, and the girl in your arms. You slip into the woods, your heart pounding with the familiar beat of flight. Only this time, it's different. You're not a girl running from pain. You're a woman running for someone else's future. that changes everything in the forest. You find a camp. They're not bandits, not traders, just others like you, the unrecorded, former servants, runaways, mothers, scribes who forged too many documents. They live off roots and fire, moving often, speaking in half sentences. You offer nothing but labor and silence. It's enough. They take you in. You become the village laundress. Your daughter, the smallest among them, becomes the firelight they didn't know they needed. Someone carves a cradle from pine. Someone else teaches you how to set rabbit traps. The camp is hidden deep beneath rock and pine. The town will never admit it exists, but you do. You exist. And for the first time since the hen house, you breathe without fear of who might be counting your breath. The camp has no name. That's part of its power. No name, no tax, no map. It lives in the seams of the forest, in the silence between towns. A handful of tents, a collapsed chapel stripped of its stone, now roofed with pine and tar. A lean-to, where a girl named Mayra teaches children how to read from pages torn from forgotten books. You never ask where the books came from. She never asks how you learned to write. It's an unspoken agreement. No past, no price, just use. The people here have no birth records, no permits, no lords. They trade in barter, skill, and silence. Each woman has a scar. Each man avoids mirrors. You fit in without effort. Alice fits in like light through cracks. Her laughter warms the dying pines. When she runs, no one tries to catch her. They just follow the sound, as if chasing proof that joy still survives here. You become the healer, slowly. Not because you know herbs, though Edla taught you enough, but because your hands are steady. The older women come with aching backs, boils, and lost teeth. You sew wounds, clean cuts, deliver babies in silence, sometimes in snow. You work by touch, not words. The men call you Quiet Agnes. You don't correct them. The name fits like a borrowed cloak, loose but warm. In time, they come to you for more than injuries. They come with fear, with loss, with the weight of memory they can't speak aloud. You listen. You never speak of your own past, but somehow they sense it. Pain recognizes pain. Your silences are not empty. They are offerings, a kind of ritual. And in return, the camp guards. You protects Alice like she was born of every woman's womb. Still, fear doesn't disappear. It just evolves. You hear whispers one night that the king's patrols have moved north, that a raid took out a river town near the edge of the duchy. Wiped clean, they say. All undocumented, gone. You don't sleep that night. You sharpen knives, bury your birth cloth deeper in the earth, draw a new escape route on the underside of Illis's cradle. You even write her a letter, one she can't read yet, one for if you don't make it. It tells her the truth, about the hen house, about Ilsa, about the fire and Edla, and everything you never said aloud. You cry for the first time in months, but not because you're afraid, because you're tired of having to be ready, of surviving, instead of living. But you wipe your tears with the back of your hand and remind yourself, your child will live free even if you dance. Spring turns to summer. Alice grows taller, her voice sharper. Why don't we have a house? She asks. Why don't we go to market? You deflect, talk about trees, birds, the moon phases. She's smart. She doesn't push, but you can feel her questions thickening beneath the surface. The time is coming when you'll need to tell her, but not yet. Let her run barefoot a while longer. Let her believe in good things. You carve small animals for her from wood. She names them, plays, stories, laughs. It's a better religion than any church ever offered you. And at night, when she sleeps beside you, small fingers curled into your sleeve, you whisper the names of the women who never got to hold their children. Bridget, Marta, Marie. Their ghosts don't haunt you anymore. They rest now in laughter, in the fact that you lived. Then one day, the boy arrives. He's barely more than a shadow. skinny, hollow-eyed, limping from frostbite, though it's midsummer. The scouts find him near the ravine, half-starved, clutching a waxed letter. "I ran," he whispers. "They were rounding us up." His voice cracks. "Town registry said it was just numbers. Then they took the babies. Said they needed to know bloodlines. They lied." The camp falls silent. Everyone listens. Everyone knows. The scribe woman, the taxman, the laws dressed in parchment and polished boots. The cage is closing again. Only this time, it won't be bars or stocks or brothels. It'll be clean erasure. Names replaced, papers rewritten, bloodline absorbed. A clerical genocide. That night, the council meets. There's no hierarchy here, but some voices hold weight. Myra, Tomas, the scout. Old Ren, who saw 2 kings rise and fall. "You speak last. We don't move," you say. "We hide better. We scatter our names like seed." There's murmuring. Someone mentions children. You stand. Then we teach them early, not to fear, not to bow, not to trust the silence. They listen. You are no longer just Agnes. You are the woman who fled the laws and lived to teach others how. That night, Mayra slips you a satchel. Charcoal, wax, old parchment. You nod. You understand. It's time to write again. Not stories, instructions, roots, codes, history. You begin the archive, not a building too dangerous. It's a traveling archive. Each mother carries a piece, folded into cloth, sewn into hems, hidden in toys and hollowed out flutes. Each scroll bears maps, names of friendly towns, names to avoid birth years, secret safe houses. You train others to copy, to memorize, to share and forget and pass it on. You teach Alice in quiet moments, not as fear as a game. She learns faster than you ever did. She knows how to pack a satchel blind, how to disappear into a hedge, how to fake an injury. To buy time, she still plays, still laughs. But when she looks at you now, there's understanding behind her eyes. She knows what you were, what you are, what she need to become. You tell her it's not fair. She says it doesn't have to be fair, it just has to work. You almost smile. One night, the flames return, not in your camp, in the valley, beyond, orange light licking the sky. Another settlement, likely. You wake the others, send families into the trees. You hold Alice close. If we're split, you whisper, go east. Find the tree with the white mark. Count 7 stones, dig. She nods, doesn't cry. She's braver than you were at her age. You stay with the second group, the ones without children, the ones who know how to burn records before they're found. The fire from the valley climbs higher. You hear horses, boots, a shout, but it never reaches you. The scouts were right. The new laws are crueler but slower. You disappear before the ink dries, and in your wake they find only cold ashes and half-burned wood toys. You begin living in motion. The forest is no longer home, only cover. You move every third night now, sometimes with a group, sometimes just you and Alice. The children know the drills. The elders speak in code. Bread becomes stone, firewood becomes ink. Danger is daylight. It's safer to speak in riddles. You've turned survival into a language, and your people are becoming fluent. Alice sings to herself on the trail, a tune you don't recognize. You ask her where. She learned it. She shrugs, from the wind. It makes you want to cry, but you don't. There's no time. Emotion is a luxury, like bread without mold or shoes that fit. You walk until your legs ache, then walk more. There's always one more border to cross, one more hidden glen, one more breath to count. You've stopped dreaming, only remembering. It's easier that way. Dreams cost too much in your satchel now. Dried meat, flint, maps drawn on cured leather, and a letter you still can't bring yourself to burn. Ilsa's note, for words, don't wait for me. you never found her. No whispers, no name in any archive. Sometimes you imagine she runs another camp, somewhere in the southern hills. Sometimes you imagine she didn't make it past the river. The truth is, there's no time to wonder. You carry her with you anyway. When you train new women how to vanish, how to lead others, how to mark trails with bark scratches, you hear her voice, that fierce stubbornness, that reckless fire. She taught you more than survival. She taught you not to apologize for surviving. That lesson saved more lives than any law. You arrive at a village by the salt marshes. It's quiet, suspicious. You don't ask for shelter. You trade mending for food. Someone offers fish. Someone else watches Alice too long. You leave before the second sunset. That's how it works now. Movement is the only safety. But with each step, Alice grows heavier. Not from weight, but from questions. Were you always like this? She asks, hiding. You stop walking, you think. Then say no. Once I believed in the rules. She looks up. What changed? You crouch beside her. The rules weren't made for people like us. She nods, the way children do when they don't fully understand. But trust the person speaking. You kiss her forehead. She smells of sweat and earth and stubbornness. You wonder if your mother ever looked at you the same way before everything was stripped away. In a stone hollow near a river bend, you find others, refugees, not from brothels, but from famine, from war, from marriage contracts signed in ink and blood. One girl ran from a noble's manor, another from a convent. None of them speak much, but when you mention the laws, they listen. You draw your maps in the dirt, show them routes, hideaways, tricks. You tell them what the brothel clerk once said about healthy girls being more profitable. You tell them how coins can silence anything. You tell them how the crown legalizes cruelty by giving it form. They don't argue, they've seen it too. One woman gives you a knife, hand-forged with initials scratched on the blade. He gave it to me to keep me quiet, she says. Now it's yours. You take it, not because you want it, because one day you might need to hand it to someone else. Alice turns 7. There's no cake, no feast, just a ring of women singing songs they remember from childhoods they left behind. Someone gifts her a carved wolf. Someone else ties ribbons in her hair. You tell her stories that night, not the ones with queens or dragons, but the real ones. The henhouse, Edla, the cellar Ilsa. She doesn't cry, she listens, wide-eyed. Then she curls into you and says, I'm glad you ran. You hold her so tightly your arms ache. You don't say anything, you just breathe, deep, slow, like the forest, like truth. Then the rumors reach you. A new decree, all children over 5 must be presented to the parish within the month, or families will face seizure. For proper registration, they say, to ensure stability. You know what it really means. They've realized people like you are raising children outside the machine. Children who don't know the old prayers, who can't be taxed, married off, drafted. The law wants them back, wants their obedience, wants their bloodlines reabsorbed. You gather your group. You draw new paths. You hide the children in forest tunnels, teach them how to lie. It's not fear anymore, it's strategy, resistance. You aren't running. You're fighting differently than a stranger comes. Not a soldier, not a scribe. A woman in linen with ink on her hands and a crest hidden beneath her collar. She asks for you by name. Your real one. I've read your roots, she says. I've seen the city houses. You built something bigger than a rebellion. You don't speak. She lays a scroll at your feet. A royal edict, unsigned, yet they want to legitimize it, she says. The council knows this can't be stopped, but they want a seat at the table. You laugh, loud, bitter. Now they want to regulate us. She doesn't smile. You know how it works. They'll either absorb you or erase you. You look at Alice, standing with her wolf doll, watching. And if we refuse, then they'll call you heretic, and they'll make your daughter watch you hang. You burn the scroll that night, not because you're reckless, because you remember. What happened the last time they wrote your name in a book? You know this isn't about peace. It's about control. Legitimizing your movement means tying it to their rules, their language, their ownership. You've seen what the law does to things it can count, so you choose to remain uncounted. You send scouts to scatter the archives again. You memorize the fallback signals. And for the first time in years, you teach Alice how to write her own name, not to register it, to protect it, to carry it, to hide it, and one day to choose when to speak it aloud. The ink-stained woman doesn't return, not officially, but her scent lingers. Fresh vellum and camphor oil. You know what that means. Surveillance, covert patrols. Someone in your camp is talking. You don't confront anyone yet. That's not how this works. Trust here is a performance, not a contract. So you study behaviors. Who lingers by the water barrels too long? Who avoids your eyes when reports come in? Who started eating better? There's no proof, not yet. But you don't need proof to plan. You just need motive. And fear makes an excellent motive. You start holding night drills again. The children grumble, the elders sigh. But the tension has returned like a sickness in the soil. You've seen this rhythm before. You remember it from the brothel, just before Bertha's raids. Calm, then whisper, then blood. Alice doesn't understand why. You won't let her play beyond the birch line anymore. I'm not a baby, she says. You trained me. I know the signals. You kneel in front of her, brush a twig from her braid. This isn't about knowing, you say. It's about surviving the things no training can predict. She doesn't argue, just hugs you harder. You feel her ribs. She's getting taller, thinner. Like all of them, rations are low. The forest is thinning. Game is scarce. You wonder how long this place will hold. Not in terms of days, in terms of stories. Every camp dies, not when the last tent falls, but when people stop believing they can stay. You've kept belief alive with maps and mantras, but you feel it now, that soft crumbling underneath the roots. Then, one morning, you find the sigil, etched into the stone near the old chapel, a half circle with 3 dots, the mark of Royal Scouts. You cover it with moss, say nothing, but the message is clear. They found you, or worse, they never lost you. You gather the council. That night Wren looks older. Myra's hands tremble. We move, you say. South, beyond the marshes. Too many valleys, too many holes. We split in 4s. Reunite at the Crescent Rock in 10 days. The others agree, reluctantly. Moving means exposure, means children crying, elders falling behind, maps becoming guesses. But staying is worse. Staying is a slow beheading. That night, you don't sleep. You stare at the stars and whisper Edla's name, not as prayer, as promise. By dawn, you're gone. Your group is the smallest. You carry no banners, no maps this time, only memory, only gut. You travel by scent pine, smoke, urine, fish, manure, marking where towns are by what the wind carries. Alice walks beside you now, no longer slung to your hip. She keeps pace, tells stories. She's taken to sketching birds on bark with charcoal. So I remember them if we can't come back, she says. You nod, say nothing, but your throat burns. You never wanted her to be this smart about loss. She hums the wind song again, the one she claimed she learned from no one. But now she tells you it came from a woman she met in her dreams. She had hair like mine, Alice says, but her eyes were sad. You don't need to ask, you already know. Ilsa is still finding ways to guide you both. On the 5th day, you find a village too new for records. Just scattered homes around a muddy square. No church, no seal, no real leader. You approach alone, palms open. Say you're a traveling herbwoman with a sick child and skill in birthing and mending. That usually works. This time, it works again. The village allows you to stay a few nights. You don't unpack fully, just enough to feed Alice something warm. You sleep under one roof. Alice traces frost on the walls into shapes. Do we stay here? She asks. No, you say, it's too still. Still things attract recorders. You move again on the 7th day, just before a stranger arrives asking about new faces. A man with a pin on his cloak, a coinkeeper pretending to be a pilgrim. You leave that night, barefoot, without fire. 2 days later, you reach the crescent. Rock. 3 of the 4 groups make it. The 4th never appears. You mark them gone, not with grief, with duty. You divide their rations, redistribute their tools. You do not speak their names aloud. That is the old way. Names must be earned. Back through memory, through story. You start carving a new wall of symbols near the stone's base. Not letters, just patterns. Shapes only your people would understand. This is so we never forget, you tell Alice. She nods, adds a bird to the corner. This is Ilsa, she says. The woman from my dreams. You let her draw, and for the first time in weeks, you sleep without your boots on. Then, without warning, it rains for 3 days straight. Tents collapse, fires sputter, food spoils, spirits sink. Mayra gets sick. Wren coughs blood. The forest becomes a prison again, damp, dark, echoing with too many hungry stomachs and too few solutions. You start rotating songs at night. Even the adults participate. 1 voice each night, a memory wrapped in rhythm. A man sings about his wife, taken during a debt roundup. A girl hums a tune her mother used to sing while scrubbing floors. A boy, no more than 10, recites part of a merchant's prayer. Half forgotten, Alice sings the wind song again. But this time, she sings it slowly. The words come, old. Words, hide the moon, bury the name. Walk in shadow, never flame. You freeze. That's not a child's song, that's code, ancient code. From the old resistance, before even your time. You ask where she learned it. In the dream, she says. The woman whispered it to me. Said I had to remember. You write the words down, carefully. They're more than song. They're instruction. Someone left it for her, for you to find. A warning, a plan. You don't know yet, but it changes everything. You spend the next night rewriting escape routes, revising safe house locations, adding contingency signals. You're not paranoid anymore, you're evolving. They taught you how to hide, but now you're learning how to shape the shadow itself. The song becomes a signal, not just melody now, but a code of movement. The verses hold directions, memory paths, warnings. Hide the moon, don't light fires, bury the name, speak only in alias. Walk in shadow, travel at dusk, not dawn. You begin teaching it to others in pieces, as lullaby, as game. The children learn it fastest. They hum it while fetching water, while binding wood, while hiding in bramble tunnels. It spreads like moss, slow, silent, inevitable, and in every corner of this fractured kingdom, a few children begin to hum in the same strange cadence. A song no church teaches, a song that no scribe can write. But those who were once catalogued, branded, taxed, and broken, they recognize it immediately. And that is how the revolution begins. Not in swords or fire, but in lullabies. You and Alice travel farther now. You've become myth-like among the scattered camps. Some call you the Dust Mother, others the Keeper. You never correct them, let them call you what they need. That's how stories survive, through useful lies. You travel with a satchel of seed scrolls, folded cloth marked in invisible ink, coded in nursery rhymes, tucked into baskets or tied to goat legs. Every house you pass receives a piece. Some burn it, most bury it, a few carry it onward. That's all you need. Not loyalty, just motion. A kingdom that controls by documentation is undone by what it cannot count. And that's what you've become. Countless. Then, one night, you meet a scribe who doesn't want to live anymore. He's drunk, shivering beside a dried-up well. You spots the ink-stained fingers, the sigil on his inner cloak. His mouth slurs guilt. I signed names into deaths, he whispers. Babies' wombs. They said it was just tax law. He holds a scroll. I forged this, a pardon for your name. It won't hold, but it might confuse them for a few weeks. You don't take it. Why give it to me, you ask? He starts to cry, because they said you were monsters. But the children sing. The children sing. You take the scroll, burn it the next morning, not because you mistrust it, because you don't need it. You're beyond their system now. Your safety no longer relies on being forgiven. It relies on being forgotten by force. Alice learns to read by moonlight. You catch her with a scroll under her blanket, whispering the letters to herself. I want to write, she says. I want to leave stories behind, like you. You take her hands. Show her how to draw the marks, not just letters, but resistance shapes. The triangle that means watch here. The inverted circle that means gone but safe. The double dot that signals child alive. She memorizes quickly, absorbs everything. It terrifies you how much she's becoming not just your daughter, but your heir. Not by blood, by burden. You didn't want this for her, but you know she bear it better than you ever did. One of the scouts returns from the coast with news. The brothels have changed. The crown has turned them into houses of civic pleasure. Same function, new name. Now the girls wear blue sashes instead of red. There's a record kept of each customer, supposedly for moral accounting. You laugh bitterly, a ledger of sin, as if that makes it cleaner. Worse still, they're offering contracts to girls as young as 10, with voluntary service clauses that cannot be undone once signed. At least we're not lying anymore, says one councilwoman. You shake your head. They've just changed the words. And you realize survival is no longer enough. Not anymore. You're tired of watching the law morph into prettier cages. It's time to tear them down, so you write the Black Ledger. Not a real book, that would be too dangerous. It's a series of scrolls, copied in secret, passed in tatters. Each one contains names of the officials who visited the brothels, clerics who bought girls, nobles who rewrote consent into silence, sheriffs who forgot raids. It's dangerous. It's nearly suicidal. But it spreads. People want the truth, not to destroy the empire, just to see it clearly. You don't release it all at once. You leak it, whisper by whisper. A merchant in Reading refuses to pay taxes. A bishop is publicly shamed and flees to the hills. A bailiff is found dead beside his own ink bottle. The crown calls it treason, but the people call it balance. You're hunted now openly. Your name appears on posters. Agnes the Dissenter. Your old brothel record, long thought burned, has been reprinted with annotations. Unlawful escapee. Suspected sedition. They get most of the details wrong. They always do. You laugh when you see it. They think I was 20, you say. Alice rolls her eyes. That's the least wrong thing. You move deeper into the southern cliffs. It's harder to find water, but easier to disappear. That's the trade-off now. Visibility for breath. Comfort for the right to keep breathing without strings. In one cave, you find a woman from your past. Not Ilsa, not Bertha, but someone who once scrubbed the floors of the hen house, while pretending not to hear the screams. Her name is Leanne. She recognizes you by your walk. I thought you'd be dead, she says. You still might be, you reply. She laughs, then cries. You sit beside her for hours. No need for apology, just memory. She joins you, quietly, starts copying scrolls. One more ghost, reclaimed from the graveyard of obedience. The revolution doesn't look like a war. It looks like food arriving where it wasn't grown. It looks like stories being told that aren't in the parish books. It looks like girls refusing, contracts, mothers hiding names, letters written backward and buried under tree roots. And everywhere, the wind song rises. That strange melody turned into map, shield, weapon. Hide the moon, bury the name, walk in shadow, never flame. Winter returns before the leaves have fully fallen, colder than before, colder than you remember. The wind bites even through the wool cloaks stitched from scavenged cloth. Food is scarce. The foraging routes are bare. Alice gets sick again. Not dangerously, just enough to slow her steps. You ration the herbs. The scrolls grow damp. One goes missing, probably taken by a stranger who came for soup and left before dawn. You don't chase him. If he reads it, maybe he'll learn something. If he turns you in, you'll be gone by then. That's how it works now. You survive not because you're faster, but because you're quieter. You've learned to live beneath the frost line of attention. And yet, you know it's only a matter of time. You've made too many ripples in the kingdom's ink. A new decree reaches you by whisper. The bloodline census, a forced registry. Children under 10 must be examined for parentage. Blood tests, bone measurements. They say it's to preserve ancestral rights. You know the real reason. They're hunting the unrecorded. They've realized something dangerous, that children born outside the books don't belong to the empire. That children raised in camps, in shadows, in code, will never become proper subjects. And so the laws sharpen, again, but with velvet gloves now. Health checkups, they say, for their future. And they bring sweets. They bring soft-tongued clerics and herbal syrup and tokens to bribe mothers. Some accept. Most disappear. Your people scatter further. What used to be 5 camps has become 27 cells. You no longer call them camps. That implies rest. These are passages, transitional, mobile, each with 2 things: fireless shelters and paper, teeth, scrolls, codes, resistant stories. The lullaby is now a rite of passage. It's taught before names. You've even heard rumors of it being sung inside actual towns, whispered by washer girls, by stable boys, by servants who don't even know your name but know your song. And that's when you realize you're no longer leading this. You're just lighting the lanterns. The path is choosing itself. Alice begins writing her own scrolls. Tiny things, fragments of poems, half maps, word games with hidden meanings. You correct her once. She glares at you. My version, she says. They'll need my version one day. You step back. She's right. This was never about perfect transmission. It's about layers of truth. When the empire collapses, and it will, one way or another, people will dig through ashes and find your stories wrapped in hers, tangled in others, like vines on stone. History can't be killed. It can only be hidden. You're learning. Now how to make it hide, well, then the patrols change. They stop asking questions. They start bringing chains. You hear of 3 women caught near the Southern River, shackled for forging false names. Another was executed for disseminating illicit cartography. That was one of your maps. You recognize the triangle marks in the report. You burn every scroll that shares the same symbol. The message is clear. The kingdom doesn't want obedience anymore. It wants fear. Raw, cold, bone-level fear. You gather the council. It's time to bury the archive, you say. Every scrap. They resist at first. Then they agree, not to destroy it, but to scatter it. Across woods, caves, ruins, even into towns. The burial takes weeks. Each scroll is packed in wax and cloth, marked in riddle. Some are entrusted to traveling minstrels, others sewn into the hems of wedding dresses headed to castle laundries. Few are disguised as church records, only decipherable if you sing the lullaby while tracing the ink. You teach your people how to forget what they carry, how to lie convincingly, how to let go. It's the hardest lesson of all. Letting go, trusting strangers, trusting the future. But there's no choice. This is what resistance becomes in its final stage, memory, weaponized. You return to the place where it began, not the hen that's long gone, torn down and replaced with a courthouse. A stone plaque out front says it once housed wayward girls given purpose. You want to spit. You don't. You light a candle on the back wall. No one sees you, but the flame holds. You whisper the names: Bridget, Ilse, Edla, Bertha, yes, even her. She was a monster, born of a monstrous world. If she were alive today, she'd be a governor, a counselor, a tax clerk. She wasn't the disease, just the first symptom you ever understood. In a quiet corner of the city, you meet someone unexpected. Not an agent, not a spy, a midwife, one who used to work under Edla. She recognizes you instantly. Her eyes widen, then soften. You made it, she whispers. So many said you wouldn't. You don't reply. She takes your hand and presses something into it. A ribbon, stained red. From the last girl Edla trained, she says. She said to give it to the one who came back. You nod, throat closing. She doesn't ask where Edla is buried. Some truths are heavier than earth. That night, you dream of Ilse. She's standing on the edge of a lake, skipping stones. When she sees you, she smiles. Took you long enough, she says. You missed the best parts. You sit beside her in the dream. It's not over yet, you tell her. They're still chasing us. She tosses a flat stone. It skips 7 times. Then keep running, she says, and teach them to dance while they do. You wake with tears drying on your cheeks. Alice is curled beside you, drawing a map in the dirt. You ask her what it's for. The place after this, she says, in case we need to leave again. You nod, of course. There's always a next place, but now, maybe for the first time, it's not escape you're planning, it's inheritance. You stop measuring time in seasons. There's no point. Time is marked by movement now, from one forest hollow to another, from face to face, from scroll to scroll. You no longer ask how long you've been running. You ask only how much longer. You must pass it on. The camps no longer need your voice to stay alive. You watch from a distance now, often just a visitor, sometimes a ghost. In one of the newer settlements, a child sings the lullaby to calm her brother. Her mother hums along, never once asking where it came from. That's how you know it has succeeded. It no longer belongs to you. The song, the story, has become folk. Alice turns 13. She no longer walks behind you. She walks ahead, chooses paths, corrects your mistakes, teaches children you've never met. Her sketches have matured. She draws not only birds, but faces, symbols, events she never saw. Sometimes you think she remembers things from before her birth. Edla's voice, Ilse's hand, your old brothels, cold stones. You want to believe it's magic, but it's not. It's memory, carried so carefully that it became blood. This is how resistance survives. Not in fire, not in riot, but in children who carry the fire in their bones and pass it along as if it were bread. In one ruined village, you hear rumors of a scribe who defected, a clerk's son who leaked birth registries, of brothel girls disappearing right before audits, helped by the ghost mother. You say nothing, but smile faintly. Even ghosts need names, and if they've named you one, so be it. One day, perhaps, Alice will become a ghost too, but not yet. She still laughs too easily, still trusts too much, still sees the world not as a threat, but a story. And that, you decide, is your greatest success. Not that she is strong, or wise, or fast, but that, despite everything, she still believes there is more to live for than to fear. Then the message comes. A courier, no older than 16, finds you near the river cliffs. Message from the east, he says, but it's not on paper. He hums the wind song, in the right order. The new order, the version you haven't taught anyone. That means it traveled far. That means someone remembered it correctly without writing it down. Your hands shake. You nod. Go, you tell him. He runs. And you know something has changed. The song has reached its final form. It's no longer signal. It's a call. You gather the old circle one last time. Ren is gone. Mayra walks with a cane. Tomas has lost an eye, but not his sharpness. You tell them the truth. It's time to stop hiding. Murmurs rise. They'll find us, someone says. You shake your head. They already did. and were still. Here you explain the song's spread, the birth of coded tales, the children who speak in rhythm, the cartographers who now leave intentional gaps in maps, the girls who fake illness during registry inspections, the whispers of safe places behind taverns, beneath bathhouses, inside bell towers. It's not survival anymore, you say. It's a system, and it's stronger than theirs because it was built from what they threw away. So you write one final scroll. Not instructions, not a map, a confession. You write it in charcoal and vinegar ink. You tell the truth about the henhouse, about Edla, about Ilsa, about Bertha, about fire and songs and laws turned weapons. You sign your real name, fold it carefully, hand it to Alice. When I die, you say, give it to someone who will. Read it aloud. She nods, doesn't cry. Instead, she traces your hand with her charcoal onto a bark scroll. So they'll know what you looked like, she says. Even if they forget your name, the laws continue. They always will. Decrees shift like tides. Registries change format. Brothels are renamed sanctuaries of civic harmony, you see. One once, from a distance. It looks like a church. You smile. That's fine, they're still relying on paper and fear. But your people, they've moved on. They've become rivers, clouds, songs that don't need parchment, names that can't be tracked, a culture within a kingdom, a resistance too soft to crush. Your final winter comes quietly. You're not sick, just tired, a little slower. You sleep more. Alice takes over most things now, scouting, teaching, composing new verses to the lullaby. She's even started carving symbols into cave walls, in places only children can reach. So it lives longer than we do, she says. You nod, words have weight, but carved memory roots. You spend your last nights by the fire, telling stories you once feared to remember. And they listen, not just Alice, but the children, the mothers, even the men who once flinched at rebellion. You've taught them that there's no shame in what they endured. That shame belonged to the men who invented those laws. You returned it to them, and then, one night, you dream of home. Not the brothel, not the forest. A home made of stone and breath and warmth. A place with no record, no name, no price. A place you never lived in, but always believed could exist. Ilsa is there. So is Edla and Bertha, all sitting around a table. No chains, no silence, just heat and laughter. You join them, you don't wake up. Alice buries you beneath the crescent rock. No name, just a carved bird and 3 dots. She doesn't sing. She teaches the others how to sing. She passes the scroll, the song, the story, and the kingdom keeps counting its people. But it never counts you, because you were never theirs.